What's up, everyone? Ryan Flacco Rising here, back at it again with some more research. You know how we do it, using our lived experience to conduct research and transform the world. Back at it on Underground Abolition Radio. So yeah, what's up? I got some new research findings over here, just conducting research left and right like we always do right here at UCIrvine right now in the PhD program in Criminology, Law, and Society. So yeah, I'm excited to share this one with you. This is some preliminary research that I pulled off for my PhD thesis, just trying to get some data, together, trying to understand this process of doing research. And I know a lot of folks have been following some of my past research. I'm getting better and better as time goes on. So this is some pilot data that I pulled, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you all. Let's see here. All right, all right. Here we go. Let's get to it. So in this research, we are exploring social support networks and mental health among formerly incarcerated students at UC Irvine. The transition from incarceration to higher education represents a critical juncture in the lives of system-impacted individuals. Individuals are now coming out of prison straight into the university. This is, groundbreaking and hasn't been something that used to be in the past. So this is all new, innovative transformation happening at the university. Social support networks play a crucial role in facilitating successful reintegration and academic success. We're pulling this from different research that has been conducted in the past in order to answer the questions that we have through this research. And so we're looking at multiple other researchers who have pulled research in the past. And so one thing that I recognize in all this research is there is a gap in understanding the dynamics of social support networks within university settings. And so my objective with this research is to investigate the structure of social networks within formerly incarcerated students, explore sources of support for formerly incarcerated students, and examine their influence on mental health outcomes. So the literature review explains a lot. So looking at Thoit's theoretical framework on social support, primary versus secondary group members, we uncovered how primary versus secondary group members within formerly incarcerated student support networks are important. And so we looked at their primary support and their outside support, outside their primary support. The literature also went on to showcase mechanisms linking social ties and support to physical and mental health. And we took this literature with our research to back up what we're seeing within the university and the importance of social ties, which supports the formerly incarcerated students' mental health outcomes. And then we went on into the literature within formerly incarcerated individuals in higher education and looked and examined the previous research done around this, which was very minimum. This is a very new, innovative program at the university, and the university is seeing a flux of formerly incarcerated students showing up to these universities now. And we also looked at the literature around the programmatic initiatives supporting system impacted students. So we examined that literature too, which was very, very slim. And so we're, inserting ourselves with this research into those conversations. The theoretical framework that we adopted for this research was Thoit's 2011 theoretical framework, emphasizing social support's role in promoting well-being, supportive relationships, kinship ties, faculty support, peer networks, and shared experiences in community engagement and fostering belongingness and identity. methodology we adopted, we employed a mixed methods approach using survey data analysis and qualitative interviews. The survey instrument, we collected demographic information, social support sources, and mental health status. Qualitative interviews were semi-structured format, exploring lived experiences. Sampling, convenience, and snowball sampling, targeting formerly incarcerated students at UCIrvine. So let's dive into the results. The survey data showcased the composition of social support networks among formerly incarcerated students. I analyzed these social support networks through the ego maps, illustrating interconnectedness within networks. There were gaps in interconnectedness. Seemed formerly incarcerated scholars they're siloed. There isn't much connection. So they have tight-knit groups, predominantly family and significant others, compared to peers and peer support. And also the faculty and the staff support was slim to none. There was a couple folks that had strong ties to being mentored by faculty, but about 70% of the formerly incarcerated students that we surveyed, they're more connected to their family than the direct support services on these campuses, and the staff within those supports. So role of family members, faculty advisors, and peer networks was what we took away from this survey data, and the frequency of interaction and perceived experiences within the network. One thing that I recognized within this survey data, and also in the qualitative, which I'll get to the next slide, is we're seeing there's a significant age difference within formerly incarcerated students and their surrounding traditional student peers. So this age gap it seems to be hindering the success and the outcomes and relationship building within these universities. So you have predominantly upper 30, 40 range within formerly incarcerated students, which is a significant gap compared to their peers in their classes who are 20s, 18, 20, 25, 26 range. And so this age gap seems to be hindering the success. There seems to be a gap in communication and a gap of understanding these formerly incarcerated students amongst their peers, which seems to be putting them out and as like some sort of target, where they're being targeted by their younger peers. And they one thing that was quoted was they feel like they have a bullseye on their back, that people are looking for them to say something wrong or do something wrong, and not having a genuine relationship with them. And as soon as they say something wrong, it's taken out of context, and it's then spiraled into some sort of, I guess you could say, some sort of wrongdoing. And then that wrongdoing is then being piled onto these formerly incarcerated students, and they feel that they're being attacked by the university and the university administrators through administrative means. And so that was seen through a few surveys and through the interviews that I did as well. So the qualitative insights allowed us to see the challenges faced in building connections and accessing resources. One of our interviewees talked about how things that he said when he thought he was around his peers were taken out of context. He was then reprimanded, and there was paperwork filed against him, and he was being criminalized instead of being shown how to conduct themselves inside the university. So this actually hindered this individual's mental health extremely. And this individual, really thought about quitting, really sent this individual into a mental health crisis. And so when they went to access resources, they didn't feel comfortable accessing resources from the formerly incarcerated student program that exists here. Instead, they had to go access resources from other resource outlets, that was where they found their safety and they found they found their comfortability at the university within this. So to speed along navigating academic environments post incarceration, this just goes to show that this is a very toxic space for formerly incarcerated individuals. And these formerly incarcerated individuals are coming straight from prison to the university, and they're lacking any type of understanding of how to navigate this space. They don't have the proper training or understanding how to even conduct themselves in this space, which we saw very much so in our qualitative and our quantitative surveys. And so this is something that definitely needs to be highlighted as we move forward and try to bring formerly incarcerated individuals to these universities. We need to look at this toxicity that exists, this cancel culture. This sets these individuals up for being targets and being targeted by individuals on these campuses to come and attack these individuals and cancel them, or to push the university to not accept individuals with these types of backgrounds on these universities. And so it's something that was definitely emphasized in the interview process, and the importance of supportive relationships and coping and adjustment. With supportive relationships was recognized as what got these individuals through these obstacles and barriers. It was the supportive relationships that actually kept these individuals from dropping out of college and just moving on with themselves and not pursuing their degree. So there were supportive relationships that were fostered along the way for these individuals, and these supportive relationships have been what's kept these individuals focused and what's helped them overcome these barriers and these dealings throughout their journey in higher education. And so we could see the impact of stigma, discrimination exists here, and institutional barriers on social integration. So the impact of this stigma, there's folks that are around that are looking at formerly incarcerated students as threats, as potential danger, as potential liabilities inside the university. And so this actually fosters discrimination. Having these internal biases is targeting formerly incarcerated students. And these individuals that have these internal bias are looking at these individuals as threats or as liabilities, and are looking for anything that these individuals do as a means to use institutional mechanisms to push paperwork against these individuals and try to have these individuals removed from this space. And so there's been multiple incidences and a lot of conflict was discussed in these interviews, and also within the survey. There was definitely conflict mentioned, and how these conflicts have actually hindered growth and hindered individuals' mental health, and have, brought up and triggered these individuals to be re-traumatized by all these conflicts. So social integration has been very hard to carry out within the university for these formerly incarcerated students. So let's dive into this discussion. So we need to look at the complexity and importance of social support networks and post-incarceration and reintegration. We need trauma-informed care pedagogy to be implemented in all programs that serve formerly incarcerated individuals. We need a bottom-up approach. We need formerly incarcerated individuals at the forefront of all the work. And we need formerly incarcerated individuals to be the voice, to be the ones who are at the decision-making tables for the decisions being made about this population at these universities. We looked at and we see the central role of family. Family seems to be the group that really facilitates support for formerly incarcerated individuals. It seems that family is their go-to compared to faculty and peer networks. And so there is peer networks that exist, but these peer networks have seen and dealt with so much conflict that they seem to still not have full trust and participation within these peer networks and also within these programs. There's been so much conflict within these programs that it's pushed formerly incarcerated students away from them. They feel like they're being used instead of being celebrated. They feel like these programs are using them and using their identity as a means for financial gain, and they're just being pushed through as a new student number in a new program that's getting financial funding. And so this is something we need to pay attention to. This is something that we need to look at. And so I'm going to throw it out there. I looked at Project Rebound. I looked at Rising Scholars Program, and I also looked at Underground Scholars. Not one of these programs has an evaluation on it. There's been no evaluations of these programs. And I'm going to throw it out there and discuss it with you all. That's not proper. We need proper evaluations and we need proper accountability mechanisms in place for these types of programs. So, that's why we are seeing challenges and barriers faced by formerly incarcerated students in higher education. This has been a new diversity, equity, and inclusion group that has come up it's come up relatively fast within the past few years. And so now these programs are seeing a ton of funding land, and then they're severing ties from the formerly incarcerated students that these programs were meant to serve. And so then these programs are just treating them as, here goes your resources, goodbye. And that's what we're seeing across the board in the state of California. And so implications for institutions, we need to enhance support services and foster inclusive environments inside these universities for formerly incarcerated students. As I looked around, there's maybe 15 formerly incarcerated students here at the University of California, Irvine. There maybe some more, but that's shooting high. I only captured 12 students in this. So, there is, more folks need to be surveyed. Like I said, this is just pilot data, but through this pilot data, I've been able to capture a lot and see a lot of what's transpiring within these formerly incarcerated student programs, and also what's transpiring for formerly incarcerated students at the University of California, Irvine. And like I said, this is just the University of California, Irvine. So there is more to come. Like I said, this is just the start of a discussion and a start of, let's get together. Let's figure this out. Let's talk about this. Let's examine these programs and let's figure out what's going on in each of them. So this is a call to action too. So here go my recommendations. We need to enhance support services tailored to the needs of formerly incarcerated students. Just having an underground scholars program or a Project Rebound program or a Rising Scholars program is not everything. There needs to be trauma-informed care pedagogy inserted in these programs, and there needs to be student council, formerly incarcerated student councils and committees that oversee these programs, not this top-down approach that we're seeing of director is the main shot caller, and they're the ones who make all the decisions for this population. No, they need to answer to the formerly incarcerated students at all times before they make any decisions for formerly incarcerated students. There needs to be formerly incarcerated student committees that are formed that advise these programs at all times. Provide faculty training to create inclusive and supportive learning environments. That's a must. And foster collaboration with community organizations and advocacy groups. We are seeing where these programs are becoming siloed programs in the university with no type of outside collaboration happening. And that's not correct. Emphasize the importance of ongoing research and evaluation to inform practice. These programs need to have a constant evaluation going on. There needs to be proper researchers tapped to do these evaluations who have no direct connection to any of these programs. And this needs to be carried out immediately because we are not being informed on the practices that are happening. So here goes my role. And this is why I'm throwing this research out there and stimulating this conversation. And I'm open for anybody to chime into this conversation. The researchers' personal experience with incarceration influenced the study design. I was locked up. I was incarcerated as a juvenile and as an adult. And so that's why, and I've also been a formerly incarcerated student at the community college, at the UC, and I was at UC Santa Barbara. I was at San Diego City College, and now I'm at UCIrvine as a PhD student. So I have the lived experience, and that's what's informing this. I've dealt with serious conflicts that have been swept under the rug. I've been treated multiple different ways, and so I'm using my lived experience as a guide to really developing and strengthening the formerly incarcerated student programs and the formerly incarcerated student network across the state of California. So transparency about shared experiences fostered participant trust and openness. Some of these individuals were very re-traumatized by their experiences here at the university, and they were really unwilling to speak about it. They felt like they were being targeted. They, have dealt with multiple different things. So myself included, that the things that I've experienced in my journey at the university and the toxic conflict and the constant being in meetings and the constant having to explain ourselves and explain our needs and explain why we need all this stuff and all this different support. It's really drained myself, and I could tell that it really drained my participants, to the point where they, lost all respect, in a lot of different cases of the university and the way university handles students that come from this background. So there's been a lot of harm done. And this hasn't been, brought out or talked about or spoke about, but we need to learn from this harm in order to strengthen the future, and the pathways that are being developed for these formerly incarcerated students. So my conclusion, there goes the key findings. We need to really strengthen and really have trauma-informed care within the social support networks that exist in the university. And we definitely need to have trauma-informed care practices in order to uplift the mental health among formerly incarcerated students. And so, there's an urgency for institutions to recognize and address the unique needs of this formerly incarcerated population. There's millions of dollars coming down from the state to serve and uplift this population. But as you navigate and look at where this money is going, it's really going to some new individual's career. They're getting paid $86,000 a year to be a director. There's a couple directors at one. So in all reality, this money's being sucked out into one person's pocket, and then the other little basic needs pots that are available are they really reaching the formerly incarcerated students? There's been no evaluation of how this money's being spent. But if you look at rising scholars, the directors are getting paid. They're making good income and they're taking care of their families. And you're still seeing these formerly incarcerated students suffer and lack resources and lack, social support in these institutions receiving all this money. So that's my call to action is we need to promote an inclusive and supportive environment in higher education. We're getting a ton of money and there is no formerly incarcerated students at the table making decisions. So I am calling on all universities that are receiving this money. You need an oversight committee that is formerly incarcerated students. This money was brought to your campus by the state of California to support formerly incarcerated students. So that's my call to action. So if you don't have formerly incarcerated students overseeing your program and your programmatic decisions, you're in the wrong. They need to be at the table. They need to be making decisions on how these funds are being allocated. Significance of the study. The significance of the study provides insights into the factors influencing educational satisfaction among post-incarcerated individuals, informs the development of supportive reentry programs and interventions in educational settings, and contributes to this breaking the cycle of imprisonment and re-imprisonment through educational opportunities. Those are my references. And I'm up for questions and discussion. I'm calling on everyone. Join this discussion. Let's get together. You want to come up on my radio show? Come join Underground Abolition Radio. We need to focus on the people at all times. And we need to put people over profits. I see way too much in my journey in this work where people are thinking about just getting some money and getting that money and this and that and then once they get the money they just sever ties and not support the people that got them in place to make the money that they're making today. And so that's not correct. And trust and believe, we're not going to stand by and allow it to go down like that. So we will do research. We will call out people. We will continue to stand up and call out these institutions. We are not going to be new pawns in your Ponzi schemes. So count us as being advocates for ourselves like we've been this whole entire time. And if you have been in disguise and acting like you're for us to get your career out of us, we're going to call you out soon. We're going to call you out soon. We're not going to stand by and be treated like we've seen these past years. We've seen the cancel culture. We've seen formerly incarcerated individuals' identities being used, their stories being used to just advance a couple people. And we're not going to stand for it any longer. Either we're all going to advance and we're all going to have opportunities at the end of this, or else we're going to have to shut this down and we're going to have to figure out a new way and abolish all this. Because in all reality, this is for us. And this is us at the forefront of building this for us. So that's not going to be taken away from us. So if you got programs that are supporting formerly incarcerated individuals and your director is not formerly incarcerated and doesn't have lived experience, well, then we need to really question, why are you at the top and not somebody that you're helping at the top right there next to you? Or Why don't you step on down? And that was another call that we put out. Dr. Weedy from Cal State LA said we should be building these individuals up with these backgrounds at all times. So every 2 or 3 years, the directors of these programs should step down and let a new formerly incarcerated individual with the credentials step in to get the experience. Why don't we make these rotating chairs? Why do we need to have one person at the head of it? I think that that would be fair. I think that that's a fair call where these programs in higher ed, the director is only a director for 3 years, steps down, lets a new person in, lets a new formerly incarcerated innovator come through to innovate new programs and advance that program to the next level in a different way or in a new way, or, roll back some of the things that went down in the beginning. I think that's fair. But this is discussion. I'm up for questions. And yeah, hit me up. That's what's up, everyone. Ryan Flacco Rising. You already know West Coast Credible Messengers. We up in it. West Coast Credible Messengers. Big shout out to all the credible messengers standing up, and the real credible messengers, the ones who can go back to their neighborhoods and can be those credible messengers to inspire and empower the communities that they come from. And also a big shout out to the University of Guadalajara. Just went out there. That was cool. Had a really deep conversation about higher education in prison. Check that out. It's time to rise up. It's time to not stand by and let these institutions continue to use us and get financial gain off of our stories and off our backs. So you like this, like and share. Definitely subscribe to this channel. And I'm out. Ryan Flacco Rising. This is Abolition Radio. Abolition Radio. Underground. Abolition Radio. Yay, yay.